Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Brothers, just before I begin, I just want to share some fiqh masail from Ayatollah Sistani. I'm going to read them. I'm not going to say anything, and everyone can obviously take them as they please. I'm going to read 3, and then inshallah we'll begin the majlis, if that's okay with everyone. No problem. So according to ruling 1380, according to Ayatollah Sistani, it has been reported in authentic traditions that a prayer performed in congregation is better than performing it 25 times than on one's own. Ruling 1382, it is recommended that one delays his prayer in order to perform it in congregation. A short congregational prayer is better than a long prayer performed on one's own. Furthermore, a congregational prayer is better than a prayer performed on one's own at the start of its prescribed time. That's the second one. And the final one is ruling 1383. When congregational prayers are being performed, it is recommended that a person who has performed his wajib prayers on his own performs them again with the congregation. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا والشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الصادقين المظلومين المنتجبين المنتخبين الذين أذهب اللهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنباء العظيم أبا الحسنين مولى القونين إمام الثقلين يأسوب الدين سيد المتقين رأس المحسنين سلطان الأولياء أمير المؤمنين أول المسلمين أسد الله الغالب غالب كل غالب مظهر العجائب علي بن أبي طالب. اللهم صل على محمد. الحمد لله الذي لا يحتك حجابه ولا يغلق بابه ولا يرد سائله ولا يخيب آمله. أما بعد، فيقول الله في كتاب الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أفحسبتم أنما خلقناكم عبثا. Brothers, sisters, respected elders, scholars. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The topic that I would like to discuss today, I believe, is a topic that relates to each and every one of our lives, which is effectively, what is the purpose of our lives? That you find that many of us, we live in a world where we think that our life is work, or our life may be our families, or some of us, our life may be just to laze around and do nothing with our lives. And you find that many of us, throughout our lives, whether in this country or another, we continuously seek this purpose, yet even at the age of 10, 20, 30, 50, and even at the age of 100 or 110, we realize that we don't actually have any purpose in our life. That many of us, when we look back at our life, we realize that we didn't have any purpose. That wherever the wind took us, we went that way. And wherever someone called us, we went that way. We didn't ever contemplate for a minute that why am I on this earth? What is my existence? And what can I do to leave my legacy behind, that people will remember me? That you'll realize in Pakistan, there's many, for example, darbars in Pakistan. And those people are remembered for something. Because they realize that they had a purpose. And usually it's to do with religion. That this man was known as a pious man, and if we go to his grave, we will be blessed. Likewise, many of you here will go to the ziyarat of the Ahlul Bayt salawatullah salamu alayhum. You will go to their zaris. Why? Because they fulfilled a purpose that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought them for. And therefore you realize that each and every one of us, whether individually or collectively, have a purpose. And how do I know this? I know this because one, not only the Quran does it tell us, it says that you are created with a purpose and many purposes. But you find that we as human beings seek a purpose. Isn't it true that every single day, sometimes when you're sitting there in your room, you're not working, your family is not disturbing you, your mind is not occupied, watching, for example, drama program or Netflix or something, when your mind is, for example, not occupied, you'll realize, or for example, for the uncles watching news in Pakistan and Kashmir issue, when your mind is not occupied, you find that sometimes you think to yourself, what am I doing with my life? And those of you who have YouTube, for example, you'll always go on those motivational videos, and they'll always say the same thing at the end. What is your purpose in life? Find your purpose in life. Then you'll be motivated to do things. But you find that as the years progress, we never ever find this purpose. So first and foremost, we have to ask the question is, that what is the definition of a purpose? That what do we define? And we define that as a reason for something to come into creation, or a reason to do something, or indeed a reason for why something exists. Now, I'll give you an example. You have, for example, an alarm clock. The purpose of the alarm clock is to wake you up. Yes, not for work, for Fajr. But no one puts it on for Fajr time. Yes, no one puts it on. Everyone's ready for work. Fajr time, everybody sleep. No problem. So you find that that's what the alarm clock is there for, to wake you up at a certain time when you need to wake up. That is the purpose of the alarm clock. Yes? Another definition of purpose is a sense of resolve or determination. That is another meaning. What is your sense of purpose? What are you determined to do in your life? You know, when you will ask many people this question, you say, you know, son, daughter, brother, what do you want to be when you're older? Many people will say, I want to be, for example, a footballer. Yes? Many people say, I want to be Imran Khan. Not me, but many people. Right? They want to be someone. Many people will say, I want to open a business. But you find that 9 out of 10 people will never achieve this. Why? Why? And you know what the funny thing is about it? It's not their fault they didn't achieve. It's my dad's fault. It's my mom's fault. It's my wife's fault. Yes, or it's my husband's fault. Or whoever's fault it is. It's everyone's fault, but it's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. So you weren't willing to fight for your dreams, but you're willing to put that projection, because in psychology they say, oh, you're projecting onto someone else. You're projecting those faults. It's a projection in a sense. And that is literally our legacy. When people will say, you know, they will say that last speech, for example, or people ask your children, for example, they'll say, how do you remember your father? Oh, my father was just moody all the time. He was just angry. And the reality is, he's not angry because you're doing something wrong. He's angry because he's done something wrong. And he wants to take it out on other people. And that's the truth. Basic psychology. Those of you who are psychologists will know that people do this projection. Every problem I have in my life, blame someone else. So you find that your purpose can only be determined and dictated by yourself. Brothers and sisters, let me come and tell you here today, your mother and father won't help you in your purpose. They won't. If you have a dream, let's put religion to aside for a second. I'm talking about objectives now. You've got a dream, any dream. Everyone around you will tell you you can't do it. They'll tell you you can't do it. When the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he invited his family to the dinner, and everyone came, Da'watul Dhul Ashira, when he invited all of them, how many people supported him? 1? 2? Let's be generous and say 3. I only know of 2, but let's just say there was someone there that they didn't write it down. Right? There was 3. How many people were there? In excess of 15 people were there. 3 people supported him. 3 people. Brothers and sisters, when you have a dream, any dream, it doesn't have to be religious. I'm not here to tell you, you need to be Ayatollah. I'm not here to tell you this. I'm here to tell you to be a good human being. Ayatollah is a lot of hard work. We just about wake up for Fajr. Ayatollah is a long story. So you find that what? The reality is that whatever dream you have in life, whatever purpose you want to give yourself, in a sense, worldly purpose, because worldly purpose and spiritual purpose, these are 2 different things. Or are they? Are they one and the same thing? Well, this is what this lecture is all about. We're going to find out. Right? So you find that wherever that purpose is, you have to take it with both hands. You have to push yourself and get there by yourself. Because the majority of people have died unfulfilled. How many people have come upon this earth and died and nobody remembers them? How many? Billions? Trillions? How many people are remembered? Thousands? When you look at a percentage, that's probably like 0.00001 somewhere. Reoccurring 0 for like, probably 1,000 and then 1 right at the end somewhere. Because that's what it is. In order to achieve greatness in any shape or way or form in life, you have to be willing to make the sacrifices. And the reality is that the motive in creation is to go towards completion or perfection. You have to move towards that. And how do we move towards that? By making sacrifices. And you'll hear this one-liner throughout the whole of these series. It was one of my favorite quotes. And it goes something like this. You have to sacrifice who you are for what you want to become. You have to sacrifice who you are for what you want to become. If you want to change something in your life, you want to be more religious, right? You want to have a better body, whatever it may be, superficial religion, it doesn't matter. You have to make the sacrifices of life today. What are the changes that you are going to make to reach that next level? If you're not willing to make those changes, then you won't get anywhere. That's just the way the world works. And that's why in the Holy Quran, in chapter 23, verse 115, Allah says, do you think we created you in vain? Yes? Do you think we created you in vain? خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا. Do you think we created you in vain? No. Because if we weren't created in vain, then Allah would not have said, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, that we have to return back to Him. If you're created in vain, then why are we going back to God? We might just go somewhere else. But you find that there is nowhere else to go apart from back to Him. Whether we believe, whether we come from Muharram on a superficial cultural level, whether we believe in Allah al-Bayt or not, I don't know. For each and every one of us here, I don't know if you believe truly from your heart. I can only speak for myself. I'm going to go to my grave, everyone here is going to go to their own grave. But the reality, whether you believe or no, whether you do good or bad, whether you pray or you don't, you're going to return to Him. Worst case scenario, you're completely wrong. You didn't pray, you didn't do anything, you're completely wrong. And you burn in hell for the rest of your days. Worst case scenario. Best case scenario, you make a sacrifice for 50 odd years here, pass away, go to heaven. I don't know, you guys got to make decisions. I'm not here to make decisions for you. But the reality is that it's like saying, brother, I want you to jump off this cliff. I want you to jump off the cliff, and at the bottom of the cliff there's sharks. But I'm going to give you a map. I'm going to give you a map. If you follow the map, I'll tell you exactly where the sharks are and where not to go. And you can navigate your way through a beautiful tropical paradise. Problem is, when we get to the water, we think the water is the reality. And we stay there. And then the sharks slowly eat us away, and we just stay in the water there. Drown. And that's why Imam Sadiq alayhi salam has said, he says the world is such, the dunya is such, it is like ocean water. The more you drink from it, the more thirsty you become. The more thirsty you become, that's just the way it is. Those of you who drink salt water will know that the more you drink salt water, the more thirsty you become. That's probably Coke's secret ingredients as well. Put more salt, make them drink more. Well, you'd hope so. I've read other studies that is something else, but let's not go into that. I don't know. Might not be sugar, it might be something else. But I'll let you do a Google search on that, what they actually, the secret ingredients are in that. But, so you find that there is a clear path that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you to attain your salvation. Whether we choose that path is down to us. It is not anyone else's choice. You have to make that decision by yourself. But there's a conundrum here. What's the conundrum? Conundrum is this. Now on one hand, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that I haven't created you without purpose. But on the other hand, 99% of human society die without purpose. So does that mean that na'udhu billah min dhalik, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasn't fulfilled what He was supposed to? He hasn't given us the guidance? Well, the example can be given very simply. In the time of Prophet Shu'aib, in the time of Prophet Nuh, in the time of Prophet Ibrahim, in the time of Prophet Isa, I would say probably 90% of the prophets in their time, were they not sent as guidance to the people? Were they or were they not sent as guidance to the people? They were. But what did human society choose? They said, no, we don't accept you. We don't want to know, we're not interested. End of the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the guidance. But we have chosen to ignore it. We have chosen to ignore it. And some people, they always ask me, they say, Murtdha, I don't understand something. I said, what don't you understand? There's so many people who read Quran, who are hafiz of the Quran, Why is it that they're so misguided? I said, brother, if you look at the battle of Karbala, you look at the battle of Siffin, you look at the battle of Nahrawan, any battle between the Muslims, there was Hafiz on one side and Hafiz on the other side. To the extent, I remember this beautiful narration. It was Dua Kumail bin Ziyad. They say one day he was walking with Amir al-Mu'mineen in the middle of the night when the Imam was Khalifa at the time. He was walking in the middle of the night and Kumail says to Imam, he says, I hear something. I hear someone crying in the midst of the night. MashaAllah, what ibadah is it that he cries in the middle of the night whilst everyone is asleep? The Imam says, I will remind you of this one day. I will remind you of this one day. Hafiz Quran, Salatul Layl, prays in the middle of the night, cries. In the battle of Nahrawan, they say Amir al-Mu'mineen and Kumail were walking. Imam looked at Kumail, he says, Kumail, do you remember that night? Do you remember that night when the man was crying? This is his body. And he died fighting against me. When our hearts are not clean and we pick up something, then even that thing can misguide us. I don't need to mention anything. We know plenty of Muslims who, have done silly things in this world. And you find the reality is half of them, well, I would say majority of them probably hafiz the Quran as well. Why? Because when you go towards something, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala adds evil to your heart. Your nafs is not clean and you try to come towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You haven't asked for forgiveness for your sins, brother. And you think you can come towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because even that thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may provide you as guidance, shaitan will come in between you and Allah. And they say when shaitan attacks, then no one's going to see that. He will attack you from behind and from left and from right and from in front of you. So you find that even though this is clearly not a conundrum, the guidance is there for us, we've chosen to put it to the side. Now, another question is that what is it? Is our purpose individual or collective? And I would say that it is a bit of both. As in, for example, Imam Hussein salawatullah salamu alayhi, you find that his purpose was individual. Now he needed to make the sacrifice in order to save the religion. Brothers and sisters, our purpose is collective. Collective like the ants. Say, Murtdha, what are you talking about ants now? I thought we're here for Majlis, what are you talking about ants now? Well, you find there's a surah called the chapter of the ant. There's a reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you about the ant. Because you find that when the ants work together, they work collectively towards a sole purpose. Therefore, each and every one of us, we should work towards a sole purpose. What is that? The return of the Imam Ajalallah Farajahu Sharif. Collectively, each and every one of us have to work towards his return. Now, we have to ask ourselves this question. How have we individually contributed or indeed created barriers for the return of the Imam? Which side are we on? Because those individuals who are interested in the return of the Imam, then they will put their ego to the side. Me included. Just because I'm up here doesn't make me any better than anyone else. So you find that what is our collective aim is for the return. Individually, what have we done? Because every team has individual roles, isn't it? You have a committee in a mosque.
One will deal with finance. One will deal with publicity. One will deal with, complaints. One will deal with Maulana being a bit too blunt, so we don't want him to come back anymore. Maybe, who knows. But you find that everyone has their own responsibility. And in having their own responsibility, what have they done to contribute towards the collective return of the Imam? This is the question we have to ask ourselves. It's a very important question. And if we're not asking ourselves this question, then what are we actually doing? Because ultimately, in order to find our purpose, we must find ourselves. We have to find ourselves. So Muhammad, what do you mean find ourselves? When was the last time you sat down and thought about yourself? When was the last time you thought about, maybe my job is not decent? When was the last time you thought about, maybe this food that I'm eating, is it halal? When was the last time you asked yourself, maybe that takeaway that I had the other day, did the guy who's claimed to be Muslim, did he even read Bismillah before he gave me the food? Or was he swearing and shouting? You'll say, Murtdha, why are you being trivial for? Well, it depends where you're at in your life. Fiqh is one thing, spirituality and akhlaq is another. Fiqh is one thing, spirituality and akhlaq is another. And I don't know about, obviously, the majalis that you've listened to, but I remember the majalis I've listened to. And Maulana used to tell me one thing. He said, the Prophet came to perfect my akhlaq. So if my akhlaq is not right, my morals are not right, then it doesn't matter about all the fiqh I can listen to in the world. It's like saying I pray, for example, all the prayers, just like that guy, right? Salat al-Layl, this and that, and then I go fight against my Imam. Why? Because he done something wrong. Something had to be wrong in his life that he get to that level. So we have to ask ourselves this question, that what have we done in order to fulfill the promise that we gave to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So Muhammad, what do you mean, what promise? I'll ask you a question, have you spoke to God? Have you spoke to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Before we came upon this earth, we all collectively made a promise to Allah that we will worship Him and Him alone. Have we fulfilled that promise? Many people say, well, Muhammad, I didn't remember. I don't remember this. I don't remember this promise. Brother, you don't remember what you had for dinner 1 month ago. You're talking about a promise you made before then. What do you remember? Tell me what you remember. You don't remember the half the things in your life and you're trying to remember a promise. Some people have some funny arguments, I'll tell you. So you find that our memory is such that we don't remember a lot. Ask me what I did when I was 10 years old. I don't know. My mom tells me I was very naughty, but who knows? I don't believe this. I think I was a good child. Yes, but we believe what we want to believe, isn't it? End of the day, that's what it is. We believe what we want to believe. The purpose that we give our lives is what purpose we want to give our lives. But what we want and what we need are two different things. See, Muhammad wants to eat chocolate cake every day. But I don't need it. I need a gym and a diet plan. Probably need to go on keto. Right? But, what do we want and what do we need? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told you what you need. But we are so fixated on what we want. We are so fixated on the rizq that we've forgotten the razik. And that's the problem. We're so fixated on the sustenance that we've forgotten the sustainer. And brothers say, until we don't realize this, before going into any of the other 8 lectures that we're going to talk about, before going in and crying about Abu Abdullah, ask yourself that simple question. What does Allah want from me? And what do I want? And if what I want is not what Allah wants, then who do I listen to? The choice should be simple. But they say the most simple things are the most difficult to create. That's just the way it is. And therefore, we need to gain spiritual maturity. Brothers and sisters, look. The human self is of two parts. Yes? You have the material and the immaterial. You have the material, which is your body, and you have your spiritual. But both of these are symbiotic to one another. And those of you who don't know what that means, it basically means that whatever you do to one affects the other. In it's a very simple sense. So if you find that you eat too much and you have gluttony, you find that your soul will perish. You will be envy, your soul will perish. You will eat haram, your soul will perish. You will do wrong, any type of will perish. But don't just think that your soul will perish, your physical body will perish as well. I don't know whether some of you are too young here, but I'm sure some of the people my age, maybe a little bit older. There was a book by Roald Dahl by the name of The Twits. I don't know whether you remember this book. Now in this book, you're laughing, but it's very important. Listen to the point. In the book, you know what he said? And it always stuck with me since I was a little child. He said that the thoughts that you have and the thoughts that are grotesque, that are ugly, that are disgusting, will cause you to become disgusting in your physical appearance. Your body and your soul are symbiotic. Your thoughts will affect not only your body, but also your spirit. Now I'm not saying just because you've gone older and you don't look as good, you're not as good looking anymore, that you're a bad person. Some people just age really badly. They should focus on their diet a little bit more. But it's probably the too much sugar in the coke, like Uncle said over there. Right? You find that that's what it is. That the reality is, if you think evil, you become evil. And this is where you need to gain that spiritual maturity, and the only way to do that is by knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, researching about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Are the attributes a part of Allah or are they not? Yes? What are the attributes of Allah? How can I instill the attributes of Allah within myself? Yes? How do I do this? What can I do to become a better human being? And all of these things, brothers and sisters, they matter. They matter. Sometimes we look at, for example, the lives of Ahl al-Bayt salawatullah salamu alayhi. Right, we look at their life. Right? And we look at all the trials and tribulations they went through, for example. But some of the trials are very unique, and not many people actually focus on this. And I'll give you one example. When, for example, those days came, right, when they didn't have much food, and someone came upon the door, and they knocked on the door, and they said for 3 days consecutive, everyone's heard the story, I don't need to mention the story again. 3 days consecutively, they gave their food away, and they drank water, and they went to sleep. And then the fourth day came, and then the Prophet invited them, and food came from paradise. We all know the story, I don't need to go over the story again. But it's very important. See, that trial is a very interesting trial. A test even. Why? How many of us have heard of water fasting? Probably not many. See, there's many types of fast. There's intermittent fasting, there's water fasting, there's dry fasting, what we do in Shahr Ramadan, for example, dry fasting, without water, without food. Water fasting is that fast where you fast, but you can only drink water. Hence water fasting is kind of obvious in the name, really. But you find that water fasting, if you do that over a period of 3 days, there's something in science called autophagy. Yes, it's a science lecture as well. Something called autophagy. Now, autophagy is actually comes from the Greek word. It means to eat oneself. What does that mean? So what happens in autophagy, when that occurs, you find that all the rotten cells, all the broken cells, all the useless cells in your body are utilized by your body, and new cells are created, fresh cells. Why does cancer happen? Because cells, they multiply too much, they're overgrown, what's the word? They multiply. Yes? They multiply and multiply until they become cancerous. But you find on a scientific level, autophagy can reverse this. So you find that the fasting that the Ahlul Bayt did, which is effectively a water fast, is dry fast accompanied with a water fast, you find that put them into autophagy. Many of us think, what a sacrifice that they made. But when you have now the knowledge that you know that your body is going into autophagy, are you willing to do it? Of course you are. You're going to want to fast. Shahru Ramadan, doesn't matter, I'm going to fast anyway. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He tells you to do something, there's a reason behind it, there's a purpose behind it. Fasting has its purpose of autophagy. Only in 2017, the doctor won the Nobel Prize for this. New scientific research. You find also on a scientific level, they study those people who pray are less likely to develop back pain when they're older. Brothers and sisters, there's a reason for everything that Islam has taught us to do, and the path is created for that reason. The problem is we're not interested. Our purpose is something else. Allah has given you your purpose, and the purpose is to worship Him. What does that mean? Does that mean, you come to Majlis and pray and pray and pray? No. When you eat, Qurbatan illallah, worship of Allah. When you pray, Qurbatan illallah, worship of Allah. When you go to work, Qurbatan illallah, worship of Allah. Yes? Everything in your life can be qurb of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you choose it to be. If you choose it to be. So if you want to take something away from tonight's lecture, it's simply this. Everything you do in your life, sitting here, playing with your kids, eating food, working, anything you do except sinning. Yeah, that doesn't count. Everything you do except sinning, you can do with the qurb of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything can be worshipped. They say that even 9/10 of faith is earning a halal rizq. 9/10 of faith. So you have to make that choice. Ultimately, you have to make that choice. And brothers and sisters, don't think that this choice will be easy. Don't think this choice will be easy. Because when Abu Abdullah made that choice, it wasn't an easy choice, was it? What happened when he made that choice, when Abu Abdullah made that choice? You find that they severed the head of Abu Abdullah. You know, when you sever someone's head in a fight, in a war, you usually do it with one clean strike. They say that Shimr used a blunt blade and struck the neck of Abu Abdullah 17 times. But you find that after he had been martyred, they took Lady Zainab, didn't they? Yes, they took Sakina and Ruqayya, they took them all, didn't they? They took them all towards Sham, and they had to travel all that way. And food was thrown on them, alcohol was drunk around them, and they were paraded through the town. And you know what the hardest thing is? When you are the daughter of Amir al-Mu'minin, no one's ever seen you. That they say that her hijab was such that even the sun had not seen her face. The poets say the sun had not seen her face. And you find now this lady Zainab is paraded through the streets. But it must have been hard when Lady Zainab got towards the Darbar of Yazid. and she saw a lady sitting there by the name of Hind. You know this Hind? This Hind, brothers and sisters, used to be a servant in the house of Ahl al-Bayt. This Hind, she used to be a servant in the house of Ahl al-Bayt. So one of the ladies came to Hind and said, these people, where are they from? And Hind said, I don't know. He said, these are people from Medina. So they say Hind from her throne came to the ground. When she came to the ground, she says, oh lady, what did you do that they kept you like this? Lady Zainab began to say, we did nothing. We did nothing. And then Hind asked, she said that, are you from Medina? She says, yes, I'm from Medina. And then she began to ask Lady Zainab some questions. When she asked Lady Zainab some questions, she began to ask her and said, if you are from Medina, then tell me, where is Abul Fadl al-Abbas? They say she began to point towards a spear with her head on it and said, that is Abul Fadl al-Abbas. She asked, where is Abu Abdullah? Please tell me, my master, my Mawla, where is Abu Abdullah? Imagine this is a sister pointing towards a brother. The brother's head is on a spear. She says, that is the head of Abu Abdullah. Hind began to cry. She says, when I was a servant in the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen, I used to play with a girl called Zainab. Tell me, where is Zainab? She said, I used to serve a lady called Zainab. Tell me, where is Zainab? They say Sakina was next to Lady Zainab and said, Auntie, I don't think this woman recognizes you. How old must she have become? How much gum she must have seen? Lady Zainab said, oh Hind, look closely. I am Lady Zainab in front of you right now. Lady Zainab began to cry and say, Hind, look at what Yazid is doing. He's striking the head of Abu Abdullah. He's striking the lips of Abu Abdullah, the lips that Rasulullah used to kiss.